The snow fell softly that December evening, just as it does now in this memory I carry with me. I was 23 years old, working as a seamstress in a small shop called Thread of Grace in the mountain town of Pine Ridge. My hands were always busy then, mending torn coats and hemming wedding dresses, earning just enough to keep the lights on in my tiny apartment above the shop. Life was simple, quiet. I had my work, my books, and the warm glow of the shop windows on cold nights. That was enough for me, until the evening everything changed. I was closing up shop when I heard it. A sound so faint I almost missed it beneath the howling wind. Crying. Not just one voice, but two. My heart seized as I stepped outside into the bitter cold, following those desperate little cries to the alley beside my shop. There, in a cardboard box lined with a thin blanket, were two baby girls. Twins. They couldn't have been more than a few months old. Their faces were red from crying, their tiny fists curled against the cold. Pinned to the blanket was a note, written in shaky handwriting that I can still see clearly in my mind. Please take care of my daughters. I cannot give them the life they deserve. Their names are Rose and Lily. I stood there in the falling snow, looking down at these two precious lives someone had left behind, and I didn't hesitate. I gathered them up, both babies pressed against my chest, and carried them inside where it was warm. That night, I became a mother. The weeks that followed were the hardest of my life. I had no family to help me, no husband, barely enough money to feed myself, let alone two growing babies. But something inside me had awakened, a fierce love I'd never known before. I worked through the nights, sewing by lamplight while the twins slept in a dresser drawer I'd padded with soft fabric. The town helped where they could. Mrs. Henderson from the bakery brought day-old bread. Pastor John's wife donated baby clothes her own grandchildren had outgrown. Slowly, we built a life together, the three of us. I named them officially after a few months, when it became clear no one was coming back for them. Rose and Lily Mitchell, my daughters. Years passed like the changing seasons in our mountain town. The twins grew into bright, joyful little girls with strawberry blonde hair and matching smiles that could light up the darkest winter day. I taught them to sew, to be kind, to appreciate the simple blessings life offered us. We didn't have much, but we had each other, and that was everything. Rose was the more cautious one, thoughtful and gentle. Lily was adventurous, always asking questions, always wanting to explore. Together they were perfect, complete. They were 5 years old when he came back. I remember that day as clearly as the day I found them. It was another snowy afternoon, and I was in the shop with both girls, teaching them how to thread a needle. The bell above the door chimed, and a man walked in. He was tall, well-dressed in an expensive dark coat and polished shoes that seemed out of place in our modest town. His dark hair was perfectly styled, and everything about him spoke of wealth and success. But it was his eyes that stopped me. Blue-gray eyes that seemed to carry a heavy burden. He looked around the shop slowly, then his gaze fell on the girls, and he went absolutely still. "Can I help you?" I asked, instinctively moving closer to Rose and Lily. He couldn't speak at first. His eyes filled with tears as he stared at my daughters. Finally, he managed to say, "Those girls, they look just like—" "May I ask their names?" My heart began to pound. "Rose and Lily, and you are?" "My name is James Harrison," he said quietly. "And I believe those are my daughters." The world seemed to tilt beneath my feet. I asked the girls to go play in the back room, and once they were out of earshot, James told me his story. 5 years ago, he'd been a struggling young man, barely making ends meet. He'd fallen in love with a woman named Catherine. When she became pregnant with twins, they tried to make it work, but everything fell apart. Catherine struggled with severe depression after the babies were born. One terrible night, she disappeared with the girls. James searched everywhere, filed police reports, but found nothing. Catherine had left no trace. Devastated and alone, James threw himself into his work, building a tech company from nothing. He became successful, wealthy even, but the money meant nothing without his children. He never stopped searching. A private investigator had finally found a lead. Catherine had been seen in Pine Ridge 5 years ago, right around the time I found the babies. She'd passed away 2 years later, having never revealed where she'd left her daughters. "I'm not here to take them from you," James said, tears streaming down his face. "I can see they're loved. They're happy. I needed to know they were safe. I needed to see them. I should have felt threatened. I should have been afraid." But looking at this broken man who'd spent 5 years searching for his lost daughters, I felt only compassion. "They deserve to know their father," I said softly. "And you deserve to know them." What followed was the most delicate time of my life. James came to visit regularly, always patient, always gentle. He never rushed. He brought small gifts, nothing extravagant at first. A picture book for Rose, who loved stories. A puzzle for Lily, who loved solving things. He sat on the floor of our little apartment and played with them, slowly becoming a part of their world. The girls were cautious at first, but children have a way of sensing goodness in people. Gradually, they warmed to this kind man who listened so carefully to everything they said. One evening, after the girls were asleep, James and I talked about the future. He'd bought a beautiful home on the outskirts of Pine Ridge, wanting to stay close rather than uproot the life I'd built for them. He offered to help financially, to give the girls everything they needed, but he never once suggested I wasn't their mother. "You saved them," he told me that night. "You gave them love when they had nothing. You're their mother, Emma. I would never try to change that. I'm just grateful for the chance to be their father." We developed an arrangement that felt right for everyone. The girls lived primarily with me, but James was a constant presence in their lives. He enrolled them in a good school and helped with expenses, but he never made me feel less than. He treated me with respect and gratitude, and slowly something unexpected began to grow between us. Not romance. Not at first. Just a deep friendship built on our shared love for two beautiful little girls. As the years passed, we became a family in our own unique way. James would join us for dinner several times a week. We celebrated holidays together. When Rose had nightmares, she wanted both of us there. When Lily learned to ride a bike, we both ran alongside her, cheering. People in town talked, of course. Some thought it was strange, but most saw what it really was. Two people putting children first, showing them that love doesn't have to fit into traditional boxes to be real. On the twins' 7th birthday, we all went to Pine Ridge Lake for a picnic. James had set up a beautiful celebration with balloons and cake. As I watched him chase the girls around, all three of them laughing, I felt a peace I'd never known before. That evening, as we packed up, James took my hand. "Emma," he said quietly, "I know this is unconventional. I know we didn't meet in any normal way. But watching you with the girls, being part of this family we've built, I can't imagine my life without all three of you in it. Not just as co-parents, but as something more. I'd been feeling the same way for months, maybe longer, but I'd been afraid to acknowledge it." "Are you sure?" I asked. "This isn't how these stories usually go," he smiled. "Maybe that's what makes it ours. We took our time, for the girls' sake and our own. But gradually, our relationship deepened into something beautiful and right. A year later, James asked me to marry him, not with a grand gesture, but with a quiet question as we washed dishes together while the twins did homework at the kitchen table. "Will you be my wife?" he asked. "Will you let me be your husband officially, not just in my heart?" I said yes. We married that autumn in a small ceremony at the Thread of Grace, surrounded by the people who'd helped us build this unlikely family. Rose and Lily were our flower girls, beaming in matching pink dresses I'd sewn myself. The shop that had witnessed the beginning of our story now witnessed this new chapter. James's success meant we could have moved anywhere, but we chose to stay in Pine Ridge. I still run my shop, though now I can afford to hire help and take on only the projects that bring me joy. James works mostly from home, his company thriving under his thoughtful leadership. But the real measure of our wealth isn't in bank accounts or business success. It's in the sound of our daughter's laughter. It's in Sunday morning pancakes and evening walks through town. It's in the way Rose still asks me to braid her hair before school, and the way Lily runs to James when she needs help with her math homework. The twins are 12 now, old enough to know their story. We've told them the truth gently and age-appropriately. They know about Catherine, the woman who gave them life but couldn't care for them. They know about the snowy night I found them. They understand that families come together in many different ways, and that love is what makes a family real. Sometimes on quiet evenings, James and I sit on our porch and watch the snow fall, just like it did that first night. He'll take my hand and say, "Thank you for saving them, for saving me." And I always remind him, they saved me first, because that's the truth about kindness. "Will you be my wife?" he asked. "Will you let me be your husband officially, not just in my heart?" I said yes. We married that autumn in a small ceremony at the Thread of Grace, surrounded by the people who'd helped us build this unlikely family. Rose and Lily were our flower girls, beaming in matching pink dresses I'd sewn myself. The shop that had witnessed the beginning of our story now witnessed this new chapter. James's success meant we could have moved anywhere. But we chose to stay in Pine Ridge. I still run my shop, though now I can afford to hire help and take on only the projects that bring me joy. James works mostly from home, his company thriving under his thoughtful leadership. But the real measure of our wealth isn't in bank accounts or business success. It's in the sound of our daughter's laughter. It's in Sunday morning pancakes and evening walks through town. It's in the way Rose still asks me to braid her hair before school, and the way Lily runs to James when she needs help with her math homework. The twins are 12 now, old enough to know their story. We've told them the truth, gently and age-appropriately. They know about Catherine, the woman who gave them life but couldn't care for them. They know about the snowy night I found them. They understand that families come together in many different ways, and that love is what makes a family real. Sometimes, on quiet evenings, James and I sit on our porch and watch the snow fall just like it did that first night. He'll take my hand and say, "Thank you for saving them, for saving me." And I always remind him, they saved me first, because that's the truth about kindness. When you give it freely, without expecting anything in return, it comes back to you in ways you never imagined. I took in 2 abandoned babies with nothing but love to offer them, and in return, I received a family, a partner, and a life richer than I'd ever dreamed possible. The sign still hangs outside my shop. Thread of Grace. It means something different to me now. Grace isn't just something we extend to others. It's something that weaves through all our lives, connecting us in unexpected ways, turning strangers into family and hardship into hope. That's what I want people to know, especially those of us who've lived long enough to understand that life rarely follows the script we imagine. Sometimes the most beautiful stories are the ones that catch us by surprise. Sometimes the family we need finds us in the most unexpected ways. And sometimes when you open your heart to someone in need, you discover that you needed them just as much as they needed you. That's the thread that binds us all together, the thread of grace.